When the human revealed his hand, every alien face around the table displayed the same expression of shock. It was impossible. "Looks like I've won this hand too," said Alex Walker with a casual smile. This was his 19th consecutive win. Zorak's 8 eyes widened in astonishment, his pale blue skin darkening to purple with rage and humiliation. His pathological error detection systems were going haywire, all his analytical capabilities struggling to comprehend this illogical situation. The other aliens around the table showed similar reactions of shock. Green-skinned Grak was shrieking, purple-skinned Firo covered his mouth, and yellow Lenzo's multiple eyes were bulging like saucers. Alex merely smiled, as if defeating the galaxy's most advanced computational experts in succession was an ordinary achievement. The pile of chips in front of him represented 6 months of Zorak's quantum credits. "Would you like to play another hand?" he asked politely. Zorak could feel the cardiac equivalent organ deep within his body, hammering against his ribcage. As the high calculator of Capitan 4, he had never lost in his 189-year career. His winning algorithm was flawless, tested and verified in all galactic quantum tournaments. How could this human species, still climbing the evolutionary ladder, possibly understand the complexities of the universe's quantum core equations better than he could? This is mathematically impossible," he stammered, his vocal organs trembling from emotional overload. "Your chance games on Capitan are interesting," said Alex, his tongue struggling to produce the strange Capitan sounds. "They're similar to our poker, but much more complex. They have more dimensions. A pleasant change." Zorak's cranial secretion glands activated in anger, releasing a sharp odor into the air. "What is this poker you speak of? How could it have any similarity to our interconnected probability calculations? Our game relates to quantum reality itself, not barbaric chance." Alex laughed, and the sound struck Zorak's entire neurological system like a blow. Humans were truly strange creatures. They smiled even when threatened, when facing death, when confronted with the possibility of being ejected into the vacuum of space. Zorak had seen reports of this when reading the archives on the human species. "Yes, I tried to explain to you. On Earth, we love playing games of chance. It's almost an obsession. We build enormous buildings called casinos just to play games of chance," Alex said. He paused and looked at the alien faces around him. "You know, maybe it's just luck." Zorak barely restrained himself from roaring, his secretion glands swelling with anger. "Luck! There is no such thing as luck, human. The universe operates with the perfect mathematics of multidimensional interactions between quantum waves. Short-lived organisms like yourselves cannot comprehend this. Success in this game depends on the ability to calculate the universe, especially the universal quantum flow theory." A slight vapor escaped from his mouth due to his fury. The human appeared genuinely surprised, but Zorak assumed this was merely a feigned expression. One could hardly expect diplomatic subtlety from a species still trying to establish a modest place in the cosmic community they had only recently discovered. "Look, I'm just trying to calculate the probability of the cards. Humans are quite good at probability calculations, especially when it comes to games of chance." He began shuffling the cards again, his hands agile and quick. Zorak was once again surprised by how gracefully humans could move with their short fingers. "I'm trying to predict where the cards are, which combinations will come up. It's not difficult, really." Zorak narrowed his eyes. Humans had only recently begun teaching quantum physics in their universities. How could this human, a mere Earth ambassador, so thoroughly dominate the mind game of Capitan's elite quantum mathematicians? Zorak quickly began considering other possibilities. "You must be cheating, human. You're using an invisible quantum computer." He activated his sensors to scan the air molecules above the table, searching for the slightest sign of technological interference. "Or perhaps you're performing some kind of psychic reading, which is absolutely forbidden in this game and punishable by immediate ejection into the void." Alex laughed again, that strange, relaxed sound. "No technology, no cheating. I'm just an ordinary human with an interest in games of chance." Something in his tone made Zorak pause. The human did indeed appear honest. The Capitan species could detect lies. This was a crucial evolutionary advantage when trading. There were no biological indicators that the human was lying. "If you'd like, I could invite you to our ship," Alex offered, collecting the chips. We could arrange a night of Earth gambling. You might find our games interesting. Most of us are amateur players. Our professionals are truly incredible." He paused and thought for a moment. "Who knows? Maybe you'll understand why humans are so good at this. Also, Earth drinks are worth tasting." Zorak found himself accepting Alex's invitation. After all, this was nothing more than scientific curiosity. Perhaps the human mind had a hidden advantage that was worth discovering. 2 nights later, aboard the human embassy ship Lucky Star, Zorak had never felt so bewildered and confused. Around him were other Capitan mathematicians, Rigori software engineers, and even a Vexillian grand calculator. All these valuable minds were here for a single purpose: to understand humans' strange ability with chance. And all had been thoroughly defeated by this primitive species. Tables had been set up around the hall, each featuring Earth games of chance they had never seen before: poker, blackjack, roulette, craps, baccarat, and more. The humans had explained the rules to them, allowed them a few practice hands, and then mercilessly destroyed them. "I don't understand," muttered the Vexillian calculator, holding his head with his slender fingers. "I design quantum computers that can solve 10 to the power of 17 equations per second. It's mathematically impossible for me to lose every time at these simple probability games." He slammed a fist on the table. "I'm calculating the cards' positions, weight, air resistance, the dealer's subconscious behavioral patterns, yet I still lose." Zorak felt a bitter sense of satisfaction. At least he wasn't the only one being defeated. Humans had brought the greatest minds in the galaxy to their knees in games of chance. The humans' first officer, Sarah Chen, approached the table with a smile. She had long black hair, dark eyes, and a distinct smile that always lingered on her face. "Would you like something to drink? You've been playing for a long time, and a break might do you good." Zorak knew that normally he wouldn't waste time with such entertainments. For the Capitan species, inefficient activities equaled sin. Every second should be productive and efficient. But his eyes were drawn to the strange drinks the humans were offering to the aliens. They were brightly colored, smoking liquids, some even with flames dancing on top. Hoping that Capitan physiology could break down these toxins, Zorak accepted one of the drinks. "What is this thing?" asked Zorak, examining the strange green liquid with his third eye focus. It contained moving bubbles in an odd shimmer. "We call this a Vegas bomb. It contains alcohol, a mild neurotoxin. We drink it for fun," Sarah replied, taking a sip from her own glass. Zorak nearly spat it out. You consume poison for entertainment?" He couldn't comprehend it. Humans had already evolved on a planet with dangerous geology. They had been constantly exposed to natural disasters, predatory animals, and microbial threats. And now they were deliberately, willingly drinking poison. Sarah shrugged. "Yes, especially when playing games of chance. Sometimes we think it improves our luck. It weakens the neural shields a bit, strengthens instincts." Zorak looked carefully at Sarah. Humans weren't just absurd, they were dangerous. They drank their poisons, put their bodies at risk, and called it entertainment. Instinct? Trusting instincts. How could they defeat aliens with the most advanced mathematical education in the galaxy at games predicting random card arrangements? There had to be some kind of trick. There could be no other explanation. What possible connection could there be between consuming poison and predicting cards? He asked, with an unavoidable curiosity in his voice. "Oh, there's no real connection," Sarah said, laughing. "For humans, games of chance are all about excitement and risk-taking, not rational, but emotional. With a little alcohol, the risks become more exciting. Winning becomes sweeter." She paused and looked at Zorak's drink. "Does your species never take risks just for fun? Just to enjoy? To do something without knowing the outcome in advance?" The expression on Zorak's face clearly showed the answer. Take risks. For fun? Absurd. Capitan risk analyses were always based on calculated cost-benefit equations. Even entertainment in child-rearing centers was strictly controlled, solely to optimize brain development. Before Zorak could respond, there was a commotion in the hall. Alex Walker entered with a large crowd, carrying something strange in his hand, a primitive device made of Earth's wood and plastic. "I've brought the dice," Alex called out. The hall suddenly became animated. Both humans and aliens were curious about what the new game would be. Excited voices rose from the human crowd. "Let's play craps! It's one of the oldest games of chance on Earth. Very simple, but very fun." The dice game was the final blow for Zorak. Physical dice, simple cubes, were thrown into the air and fell randomly. The humans predicted what the dice would show and placed bets accordingly. There was no quantum analysis, no complex calculations, just a simple, absurd, completely chaotic system. And yet, the humans kept winning. A human woman, a short, red-haired one named Lisa, correctly predicted the right combination 7 times in a row. Another human, Tom, won 9 times out of 10 rounds. When Alex hit a difficult combination he called hard 8. On his first throw, Zorak could no longer contain himself. "This is nonsense!" he exploded, rising to his feet, his blue face purpling, all attention turning to him. "You are a primitive species. Your neural networks are like children's toys compared to ours. You cannot comprehend quantum reality, cannot grasp multidimensional mathematics. Yet you defeat us. How? How is this happening?" His voice echoed around the room, his final words almost a scream. Silence fell across the room. The other aliens were also wondering the same question, why humans were so good at this chance thing. Several humans shifted uncomfortably, some looked disturbed, but most remained calm. Alex turned the dice in his hand, looking thoughtful. "You know," he said finally, "perhaps the reason we're good at games of chance is that we understand the universe very differently than you do." There was no defensiveness or anger in his voice. He placed the dice on the table and pointed to a giant holographic screen in the hall. "Johnson, please display the fundamental equations of quantum flow theory." Complex mathematical symbols appeared on the screen, the common mathematical language of all species in the galaxy. Zorak felt satisfied. Humans could never understand this complex mathematics. "Look," said Alex, pointing to the equations. "Your theory states that probability waves collapse in a deterministic way. If you know all the variables, you can calculate every outcome." He paused for a moment. "But in Earth's quantum physics, we discovered something different. True, absolute randomness. An understanding of a universe where some things are genuinely unpredictable." The Vexillian Grand Calculator sighed. "There is no such thing. Randomness is merely an illusion of variables you haven't yet been able to calculate." Alex shrugged. "Maybe, but our experimental work shows otherwise. And perhaps this is exactly why we excel at games of chance. We accept randomness and learn to live with it. You search for order, we dance with chaos." New images appeared on the hologram. Brain scans. "Here, these are scans of the human brain while playing games of chance. Look, not just the mathematical analysis regions are active, but also intuitive and emotional areas. We don't just calculate, we also feel." Zorak stared at the human brain scans in amazement. Their brains seemed highly inefficient. Instead of focusing on specific computation areas, they used all regions of the brain. It was illogical, inefficient, and yet it produced results. "For humans, games of chance aren't just about mathematics," Alex continued. "Reading other players' behaviors, intuition, understanding emotional responses, all these are parts of our human computation system. We are simultaneously calculators and intuitive beings." "Incredible," murmured the Vexillian calculator, suddenly appearing much more interested. "Humans combine mathematical calculation, psychological analysis, and neurochemical intuition to understand randomness." He turned to aliens of his own species. "This could be why they're so good at games of chance. They work with chaos, not against it." Zorak wanted to object, but something inside him suggested this explanation might be true. The humans' messy, emotional, primitive minds could somehow see a type of order within chaos. "But what significance does this have for the galaxy?" Zorak asked, still skeptical. "Playing games with cards and dice doesn't solve the universe's great questions. It's just," he made a vague gesture in the air, "empty entertainment." A strange expression appeared on Alex's face. Zorak thought it might be a mysterious smile. "What if it is?" said Alex. "What if what you consider entertainment is actually the key to solving your deepest questions?" A month ago, the Earth Science Council published a report that will be presented to the Galactic Center next week. The subject, quantum instability simulations. Whispers circulated around the hall. Quantum instability was one of the galaxy's greatest problems. Unpredictable quantum events affecting everything from planetary cores to stellar fusion processes. No computational system had successfully modeled it. For hundreds of years, species had been searching for a solution. Zorak couldn't believe his ears. "Are humans claiming to have solved quantum instability?" he asked, his voice filled with disdain. "You've barely reached half light speed. You only started using electricity 5 centuries ago." "We're not solving it," Alex said calmly. "We're playing with it." He pressed a button and the hologram changed, now showing a complex simulation. Unlike galactic standards, this simulation wasn't orderly. It continuously moved, changed, shifted colors, formed patterns, and then dispersed again. It looked like chaos, but upon closer inspection, there was a kind of rhythm, a kind of order within it. On Earth, we developed a system called Monte Carlo simulation. It models complex systems using random numbers and probability distributions. We embrace randomness and give it shape, exactly as we do in games of chance. Zorak and the other alien mathematicians stared at the simulation in amazement. The human algorithm was like some kind of organized chaos. It was completely different from algorithms any quantum computer would use, but the results were correct. The simulation matched real quantum events almost perfectly. On the small screen, quantum fluctuations in a neutron star's core were being predicted with perfect accuracy. Where supercomputers stalled, the human's semi-intuitive, semi-mathematical approach succeeded. What is this?" Zorak stammered. Alex smiled. The same mind that invented games of chance also found a way to simulate quantum instability. Do you understand now why Earth is so good at predicting cards? We learned to dance with randomness not just for entertainment, but for survival. Alex took a die and tossed it in the air. He threw it with a special twist of his wrist, and the die seemed to hang in the air for a moment, then fell exactly where he wanted it. Games of chance aren't just entertainment for us. They're a kind of training. We don't try to calculate the universe like you do. We flow with it. Sarah added something, still holding her glass. We don't rely solely on calculations to know what will happen in the future. We also trust our intuitions, instincts, and emotions. Sometimes your body senses danger before your mind does. A mathematician might sense the solution before finding it. Similarly, a gambler can predict cards. This is our human superpower. She raised her glass. Instead of challenging chaos, we embrace it. At that moment, Zorak and the other alien mathematicians felt all their feelings of superiority melting away. Humans weren't barbarians. They were just different. They had found a different way to understand the quantum universe. Zorak took his poisonous drink in hand, hesitated for a moment, then took a small sip. He coughed as it burned his throat, but a warmth spread inside him. He raised a glass to this rare, unexpected species. "Perhaps," he said to the other aliens, "we have something to learn from humans." Alex laughed and rolled the dice again. "You're lucky," he said. "We're a species that loves to teach. Would you like to play another hand? This time, try using your instincts instead of mathematical calculations." Zorak reached out and took the dice. Perhaps the Capitan's belief in perfect order had limited them. "Yes," he said, shaking the dice. "Show me how it's played." For the first time, he was ready to abandon certainty and embrace randomness. Perhaps humans had discovered that the universe was not just an equation to be calculated, but a game to be played.